What does that look like to you? Everybody can tell me what that appears to be. You're blank. Anybody? Okay, can you imagine it as a painting on a wall?
Oh.
Oh, yeah, sure.
It looks like it, right? You have the floor down here. You have a wall and you have the painting on the wall. It might be a little bit off, but it gives a general idea.
Yeah, as you mentioned it, I see it.
All right, or it could be a TV on a wall or a screen on a wall. Now, I just want to demonstrate something for you. With a smart object. So I'm going to use that text layer, right? And I'm going to move it to attempt to fit it inside of this smart object in the manner that, with that current perspective, as in it's you're looking at it at an angle. Manipulating the text object will actually be restrictive. In other words, and if you're unsure what I'm doing right now, I'm actually using the keyboard, pressing the control. See when the cursor changes from the double-headed arrow to the white arrow. Everybody sees that, right? Okay, that's because I'm holding on the control button, and I'm actually trying to attempt to stretch one side of the text layer. And you notice that it will not let me do it. It will pull the other side with it, and it does that because it is text, right? But if I were to convert that to a smart object, right? It allows me to manipulate it in ways that I wouldn't be able to do it normally, right? So,
I have a question.
yes.
The first thing he was doing was called not called wrap, no?
Wrap.
Yeah, wrapping the text.
Okay. Wrap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is the same as the second?
For the most part, yeah.
Okay. Why is that? Okay, thank you.
Why are you saying? Somebody saying something?
I was asking you if wrapping the text is the same, would be the same way, just in a it would be the same, would give you the same result as turning it into a smart object and holding on control to
No. With the wrap, actually, you see, you can wrap it in different ways. What I was actually doing is perspective. Hold on. Let me demonstrate. Let me show you. So if I have a text there, I'm gonna convert that rasterizer. What I was actually doing was perspective, right? It's sort of the perspective allows you to adjust how you view the object, meaning the angle that you view it at, right? So that's what I was initially adjusting, the perspective to fit it on the wall. Yeah.
Okay.
But if
so
you it's not what?
It's not the same.
No, it's not the exact same thing. But it does you see, wrap, you can always wrap text, but the perspective you cannot do it, you cannot apply it to text normally while the text is a text layer. You understand?
Right.
So if I were to select a text layer now and go to edit transform, it is not even actually enabled as an option. I cannot use perspective, I cannot distort it. All right. Now the reason I was a little confused is because I was using the shortcut and not the manual transform. If you go transform, Let's do it on a smart object. All right. Actually, that's not a smart object. That's not a smart object. Right. If you were to do it on a smart object, you see all of the options are available. You can distort it in any way that you need. See that? So usually what I do with the shortcut, I'm actually able to manipulate it in multiple different ways without using the single menu option. So if you go to, for instance, perspective, all you can do is adjust the perspective. You cannot distort it, you cannot share it, you cannot and even resize it. Yeah, you cannot even resize it really, make it bigger if you wanted to. So I typically use the shortcuts, and the control shortcut actually allows you to manipulate every point on the bounding box independently. So you can adjust the perspective, you can adjust the distortion, the wrap, but all of them is in transform. All we're doing is basically free transforming. Okay. So the advantage of the smart object is while the text layer will not be able to be distorted in a manner that would get it to fit here well, the smart object layer, we can distort in any way that we can do a raster layer, a regular raster layer, or regular bitmap layer, and still maintain the original content intact. So notice it's a text layer now, right? I have a question for you. It's a text layer as a smart object. What if I wanted to change the words from text layer to smart object? Can I do that right now?
No, you'll have to convert it back.
I have to convert it back. No, that's actually not true. Remember I said, and you cannot actually convert it back into text. There's no option to convert it back.
Wait,
into text.
you say you can a smart object you convert it to, right? So you just editing the original.
Yes, but remember that's not a smart object that we saved as a Photoshop document and placed. We created that text layer within Photoshop and we converted it into a smart object. So it's not saved anywhere that we can go edit it. But I did show you a method that you can edit it from within Photoshop. If you right click on the smart object and you click edit contents, look at what happens. It opens up the text layer in a Photoshop document by itself. You see that? Now look at the list of layers. It has just one layer and it's a text layer. Everybody sees that?
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm gonna change my text layer here. So type to this a minute. All right, let's change it to smart objects. Let's just make it fit. All right, so I edit that layer. You notice it updated on my layers palette. Now I'm simply going to close and save, yes, and go back to my original document. Give it a minute to update. Voila. Everybody see that? Yeah. All right, Joel, you see that? So it gives you a mandatory extra step for you to edit it, but for the functionality that you gain and the editability that you gain, it's actually worth it. Okay, so everybody sees that?
Yeah.
Okay. We know that if you have a smart object and you duplicate it,
You showing us that so we can do mock-ups, right?
well, it would be relevant in mockups as well, right? So you see how if we do in mockups, we could actually make changes and not have to do the work, redo the work over and over again. It actually simplifies our life. Makes sense, right? Yeah, and you're a bit low, but ask.
So Photoshop detect the text layer because it was a text layer previously, or it just created
Yes.
a text layer?
No, because it was a text layer previously. All of the original information about the text layer was actually saved in the smart object. So it didn't lose any of the text. It's just that it puts it in a container called a smart object. And that smart object now, Photoshop treats it as a raster object. It doesn't treat it as text, it doesn't treat it as vector, it treats it as a raster object. But it can have vector data, text data, and raster data in it.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Yeah. So it's a bit more flexible in that way. Right? Let me
So you can do from edit text, you can do any type of editing, right? So you can do shapes, can you add clipping mask from there? Can you edit clipping mask, them type of things, like editing in general? So let's say if that was like a color, you could change the color, right?
We're talking about the document that we're working on now?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, tell me. If that was the color, yes, we can change the color. No.
But you wouldn't need to change it to a smart object, right?
No, not to change the color. As a matter of fact, a smart object is more difficult to change the color of the text in a smart object than a regular text layer. Let me show you. So this one smart object is my smart object. This one is my text layer, right? To change the color on my text layer, all I need to do is go to my character palette, click on color, and change the color of my text, right? If I were to click on my smart object, I cannot do that because it's not text. I can do it the same way, but I first need to right-click on my smart object and go to edit contents. That will then open up the smart object as a new document, and my text will be a text in that document, right? Now I can go into the layers palette and update the color. Right? And then I need to close and save, yes, and have it update. Give it a minute. So a smart object actually makes it difficult to edit, to make individual edits like that. That's why you usually work with a separate document and import it as a smart object. So that way you don't really edit the smart object by itself. You edit the main file and you just update it. Usually, if you do it mockups, that is. You understand? Now, that actually segues us nicely into our blending options, right? Which is another way to change the color. So we could change the color of the text, but not all objects are text. So in the case of the smart object, if I wanted to change the color of it as well, rather than changing the color of the text, I could deal with it as any other raster image and apply a color overlay, which is one of my options, my layer style options, right? Color overlay. So you can see.
My computer go off the.
Oh, your computer go off? All right, well, let me take it again. What I was saying.
That's okay, I don't have to waste time. I'll just watch you recording. You can just continue.
Okay, cool. Well, what I was saying is, if you wanted to change the color now of a regular raster object, meaning you wanted to change the color of the smart object without editing the text layer within it, right? You could simply go to the blending options and give it a layer style, color overlay. Color overlay will allow you to add a color over the entire layer, the entire object, right? And you will be able to change the color accordingly, right? Now you could do the very same thing with your text layer as well, right? So the text layer actually gives you two ways to change the color of the text. You could apply a layer style for your blending options, or you could just change the color of the text for your character palette. Yeah, but either way, you can always change the color.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I guess the other guy is not coming, and we already done jump into the blending options, which is what we're supposed to do today. But let me just run through the last couple benefits, all right, on the smart objects. So we know it preserves your raster quality. It saves your free transform settings. You can have a shared source. So if you duplicate a smart object within a document, they are actually linked, all right? And if you change one, the other one will change. If you want to duplicate a smart object, right? If you want to duplicate a smart object and not have it be linked, meaning you want to change one but not the other, you would use this option, new smart object via copy. Right? That would allow you to create another version of the smart object, but it would not be linked to the first one. And let me demonstrate the effect of that. So the smart object in the center is our original. The one at the top is one that we have created that is not linked, and the one below is linked. Everybody understand that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
if I go to edit the contents of the original, right? And let's just say I change it to smart obj, confirm, close, save. What do you expect to happen?
The one on top and the one at the bottom, what did you?
The one in the center, which is the original, and the one at the bottom, which it is linked to, will change. The one that was created as a copy, which is not linked to the original, is still a smart object, but it does not change with the original. Yeah, we can change it independently. Everybody says that. That is basically the
That's
difference
it.
between a linked and an embedded object. So a linked one will change when the original one changes. The embedded one, you will have to change it by itself. Okay. All right. Okay. Question?
No.
Okay. All right. So replacing contents. So with a smart object, you can always replace it with another smart object, right? You can replace it with an updated version of the file easily without having to import the other file and perform one of the transformations on it again. All right. You guys understand that? I'd have to give you a demonstration. Let me know. Okay. Okay, and smart objects allow you to use smart filters, right? So let me just demonstrate that again. So let me apply a filter. Let me see. Blur, Gaussian blur. Let's see what happens. So the Gaussian blur is a blur effect that gives a nice even all around blur to your layer, right? May not be apparent enough on
Smart filter, you say it has smart filters?
yes, it does have smart filters. Hold on. Let me just get to Gaussian. All right. So yes, I said smart filters. If you look here, when you apply a filter to a smart object, not all filters, there are a few of them that just don't have a smart filter equivalent, right? But when you apply a filter to a smart object, it gives you what is called a smart filter, meaning you can actually go back and edit. See, I can actually double click right here and edit my original filter, which is something that you cannot do with regular objects. Let me demonstrate. Again, we have our text layer below here. This is just a text layer. What if I were to try to apply a Gaussian blur to it? What do you think is going to happen? Anybody? Kendall, what do you think is going to happen if I click Gaussian blur here now?
Sure.
Excuse me?
Not sure.
You're not sure? The Messiah, you're not sure either? Okay, what's going to happen is it's going to ask me to rasterize the type because I cannot apply a filter to my text.
Oh,
So that means I'm going to have to rasterize it, convert it into a regular raster layer, and then I can apply my filter. But then, guess what? I apply the filter. What if that is too little of a filter? I cannot go back and change it. Once I apply my filter, that's it. I can only move forward. Whereas with my
undo.
well, you can undo, yes, but undo would undo the whole thing. Now, what if I did 10 other things before, and then at the end of the design, I realized, you know what, I want just a little bit more blur. See, I had to undo the text layer. But on the smart object, I can actually come down to my smart filter, double click on Gaussian blur. Notice my original pop back up in the background, right? And I can adjust my blur as needed on the fly. Now you see how that looks right there? Here's another. Say that again.
I say you cannot get that effect if you using it without the smart filter.
Well, you can get that effect, but you wouldn't be able to edit it. So now that it looks like just that blurb on the screen, right? I can still come, edit contents, and the content of my smart layer is the same. I can edit my text now, right? Confirm.
5 more minutes.
Yeah. Confirm, save. And the edited text with the blur, look at it, it's going to update in a second. Right? Will actually update. Now you don't really see the difference. I'm going to come back again and bring down the Gaussian blur a little bit so we can see the text was there, just so we can see it. And voila. Right? Now, if I had applied that one Gaussian blur to the text layer, it would be rasterized, and that would have been it. There would have been no edits that I could have made to it again. If there was any spelling errors, I'd have to create my type layer all over again. I couldn't just go back and edit it, right? So that is another benefit of the smart objects. They allow you to use smart filters. Yeah? Everybody get that? Okay, let me see if I can throw in the last one there on the smart object. You are able to use the smart filter mask. Let's see if I can get that to work. All right. So the smart filter mask exists right here. You see where it says smart filter, right? And you're able to mask parts of your filter effect. So right now, all I'm doing, I'm using a black brush to paint. Remember, we use the black on masks to reveal, sorry, to hide, and we use the white brush to reveal, right? So you're actually able to apply a filter and mask out portions of that filter effect, which is something that you cannot do with regular filters or regular layers. Everybody sees that? You guys understand that?
Yeah.
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 All right. Do you see the benefit of that?
Yeah.
All right. As you play around with it, you will you'll get it more, man. But basically, that is it for smart objects again. That was a list of advantages that you would have working with smart objects. So as you play around with your documents, see if you can implement that, try it out and make use of it. Okay.
Okay.
All right, Joel, you had a couple questions. We have 2 minutes left. Let's take a little break, right? For 5 minutes, I'm gonna send you the new link in a while, drink some water. When we come back, we're going to tackle your questions and then we're going to run through the blending options, all right? Or creating a layer style, all right?
Okay.
All right, guys. So I'm gonna end it now and we'll be back in 5 minutes.
Oh, sure. That was useful.